This came up in stream today. Do you think that elementalist meteors are just kidney stones? Now that's the real question I want to get into. That's the lore we need to get into. Screw the dragons. Let's talk about magic. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing my adventure into the utility skills. I already did a video covering all the utility skills that I think are bad and not as good. So today I thought, creative. I'll do another video where I do the exact opposite of what I talked about in the previous video talking about utility skills. This is going to be a video where I go over some of my favorites and the utility skills that I find to be fun, flavorful, and also just really good in terms of efficacy. I have the same exact tier maker, but different categories, and I've also inputted more utility skill icons. So you might see the utility skill icons from the previous category of the worst utility skills, but there are utility skills here that I find to be the best. So let's begin with the first one, Warrior. This is Banner of Strength. I really enjoy this skill. I think that it hasn't popped severely, but I think it definitely is a staple. And this banner also represents all of the banner skills on Warrior. Anytime there is a utility skill or a category of utility skill that gives unique buffs rather than a boon system, I am instantly intrigued. I'm instantly interested because it carves out more of a niche for that specific class than just allowing it to do all of the boons that most classes can already provide. Next, Blink for Mesmer. Now, Blink for Mesmer, this might not be the very first thing that comes to mind when you think of the best utility skills, but when you look at what Blink does, it's a 1200 range instant teleport. I believe you can also use it while you're stunned, or it is a stun break. It's on around a 30-35 second cooldown, and it's also just extremely flavorful to the Mesmer, and that is the other aspect of fun. It doesn't do much other than blink you very far in any direction that you want, well, be it how close or how far you want. This can be used to chase down a target, to escape, to stealth and then go. There's a lot of versatility to it. Next we have Bulwark Gyro. It's both fun and I think a staple to Scrapper. I kind of want to put it more in the fun category because I don't think that there are many circumstances when it comes to endgame PvE with raids and or strike missions where it's necessary to take this. However, if you're with a group of players that are taking a lot of damage, then of course it would be necessary. But a Scrapper as a tank, I think, is such a cool concept, but there aren't that many PvE environments where tanks are necessary. I just think it's more so fun. Next, we have Corrosive Poison Cloud. Now, Corrosive Poison Cloud, over the years with all of its buffs, I think it's almost popped severely considering the projectile destruction. Now, this might be a bit more of a PvE bias or PvP bias coming into play, but I cannot help but acknowledge Corrosive Poison Cloud's raw power when it comes to destroying projectiles, and particularly destroying powerful projectiles, but also applying decent poison application, which is also a health reducer when it comes to healing. And it also does damage over time, and if you trade it and you spec it right, poison can do a lot of damage. The Corrosive Poison Cloud has popped pretty severely over the years. I don't know if people really understand the power that Corrosive Poison Cloud holds, but I could understand when people would just say it's more so a staple to Necromancer. It's a very classic Poison Cloud type spell, Elixir S. This is the Engineer elixir that makes you small and prevents capture point contribution, but also makes you basically invulnerable to everything. This is popped severely. I mean, if a utility skill has been on a profession's toolkit in the meta for multiple years now, I think that's safe to say that Elixir S has popped severely. Next, we have Entangle. Now, Entangle, once again, has popped severely. Entangled is one of the most annoying elite skills to play against in PvP, and in PvE, it's also really strong with certain situations and with certain mechanics in raids. It locks down a target, but not only for that duration of immobilize, but it continually pulses immobilize wherever your entangling roots show up. Its radius is also massive. It's surprising that the radius has not been shrunk in the years that it's been around. Next, we have Forced Engagement. I believe this is what this ability is called. It's the Chalice Chain. I think this is both, this fits into all three categories. It popped severely, it's a staple, and I also think that this is just a lot of fun. It's the strongest taunt in game. For the base duration of 4 seconds, a lot of taunts that were put into the game after Chalice were around 1 second in duration, which is just so funny and strange to me that they haven't split taunt in between PvE and PvP. It's just that the game hasn't been built around taunt, nor has the game embraced taunt, which why even bring it into the condition fold if you're not going to utilize it? At this point, they honestly should just get rid of taunt or embrace it more. But nevertheless, Forced Engagement, 1200 range, hits 5 targets, deals damage, applies taunt, and slows them. It's huge potential on taunt. So we have Glyph of Elementals, or Lesser Elementals. This is your minion summoning skill for Elementalist. I think this is fun. I think it's a really strong utility skill for Elementalists because Elementalists are very squishy as themselves, but you can then bolster your arsenal up by summoning more elemental minions. And depending on the attunement that you're in, you'll get a different minion that does different effects. So with an ice elemental, it'll summon a field, which allows you to blast in that field to give yourself and allies Frost Aura, which reduces your damage by 10%. Impossible Odds for Revenant. Impossible Odds is just a staple. I think it hasn't really gone OP to where it's been popped severely, but I think it's definitely a staple to the kit of the Revenant. And it's been changed a couple times here and there, but I think where it stands currently, because Revenant has the opportunity to land so many strikes, so many fast, quick strikes on not only their weapon skills, but also their traits and also their utility skills, such as Impossible Odds, which adds an additional strike. Impossible Odds becomes a really threatening utility skill. So I think it is a staple for Revenant. And then next we have Preparation 1000 Needles. For the sake of how it has replaced traps and how I have been seeing it more often in PvE environments, be it open world or maybe in some fractal or minor situations with raids if someone is playing a conditioned thief, this utility skill is really good. And in the same vein, Scale Venom and all Venoms really have maintained consistency within the game and within the meta. It is just a great way for thieves to apply conditions on their target for them to then stealth or move out of the way, so their condition damage can continue to proc on their enemies, but they are somewhere else safer, or they are retreating for a little bit to prepare for their next attack. But Preparation and also the Venoms are really solid thief skills. Next we have Guardian's Renewed Focus. This is the situation where I'm also like, it's similar to Elixir S. It's another invuln. Is it a staples of fun? I don't even think Renewed Focus is all that fun, but I mean, no doubt. There's no doubt in my mind that Renewed Focus has popped severely in the meta for Guardian. Renewed Focus, I mean, you go invulnerable, and not only do you go invulnerable like Elixir S, you recharge all 3 of your virtues, F1, F2, and F3, and they are such strong abilities when it comes to some builds with Core Guardian, but particularly Dragon Hunter and also Firebrand, getting all those tomes back and getting all of those virtues back with the spear and the wings and the shield. There's so many opportunities that you can line up with Renewed Focus again. Stand Your Ground. Now, Stand Your Ground, this whole entire section is like just the best OG, like popped, and they are so strong. Pop severely also if you just are not catching wind of it, means like, you did good, kid. You popped. You did good. Phenomenal. 10 targets. I highly expect this to be nerfed at some point in the future where it's only 5 targets. There's a lot of stability to the point where I think actually stability should cap at 5 stacks, in my opinion. And it should be a little bit more difficult to apply such wonderfully gluttonous, just very available amounts of stability. But Stand Your Ground, I think, is really strong for what it does, which doesn't seem like a lot, but sometimes utility skills that don't seem like they do a lot are the ones that are the most tried and true and are the most taken, such as Blink, which is just a teleport, but it's so strong. And the next we have Sanctuary. For Guardian, staple. Not only is it a staple for its iconic visuals and its history within the game, but throughout the years it has been buffed to increase its radius, to increase more healing. It's also one of the strongest crowd control abilities in the game for PvE against break bars, but also on PvP. If you pop this on a node that's a bit smaller, it becomes increasingly difficult for enemy players to get on the point, and movement is so fast that they sometimes forget where they're going, run into the wall, they get knocked back, everything. Sanctuary is great. It's phenomenal. So I think it is a staple, but I don't think it's super strong. I don't think it is overpowered. I don't think it's in the pop severely category. I just think it's a really good staple skill for Guardian. And the next we have Shadow Meld. This is a Deadeye elite skill. I think this is just really fun. I think Shadow Meld deserves more props. It is also extremely strong. I don't say extremely strong, but I think it's also a staple to Thief. The Thief identity, not only the Deadeye identity, but the Thief identity as a whole. But I think I'm going to put it in the fun category because all it does is remove reveal from yourself and stealth you. It's a guaranteed stealth that you can chain. So if you have a long-standing stealth that you use to get around, use your opening strike, you can use Shadow Meld once again, get rid of that reveal, and go straight back into a stealth state. I have Signet of Undeath, popped severely. Popped. Necromancer decided to straight up serve with this utility skill. And especially over the years, I don't think a lot of people really paid it much attention. I mean, they might have, but I think it has definitely gotten much more attention in the recent years with the focus on resurrection builds in PvP. Everyone's taking res traits, everyone's taking res skills. The res potential in Guild Wars 2 PvP specifically, I think is a little too high, but in PvE, as this video has kind of already blurred the lines of PvP and PvE, Signet of Undeath is such a strong passive signet to have because it passively generates your life force. And sometimes I feel like the balancing of life force on Necromancer is a very specific thing that I would like to see more nuance and care taken into, because sometimes I feel like more of the life force generation should be on the weapon skills rather than the utility skills and the traits. But spirits from Ranger, I think this is a staple. It's both a staple and I think it is in the slight popped severely category, but I think staple is much safer. I think this is a staple, not only stone spirit, but also spirits as a whole. I had mentioned this with banners. Anytime a class gets access to unique buffs rather than boon applications where they're like increasing damage by 5%, reducing damage by 8%. Those are always very interesting dynamics that I hope to see more of in Guild Wars 2. Next we have Sword of Justice for Guardian. Popped severely and a staple, depending on the situation. I mean, even by itself, Sword of Justice is a staple because it does so many packets of damage and its raw potency is already pretty high. But when you pair this with a Dragon Hunter trap, the one that spins just so fast, this becomes nearly overpowered because you are getting so many strikes off of it, which procs your F1 passive effect of the burning. And there's just so much damage potential on this one ability that I really wouldn't mind seeing it slightly nerfed or a longer recharge on this ability. But honestly, Sword of Justice as a spirit weapon popped severely. I mean, I gotta say. And I am just now realizing that my icons were not in the shop, but here we are. Time warp. This is the whole thing. You can catch up. Time warp. Great. Quickness and slow in a massive area. Love it. I also really appreciate that it's still a 2-minute cooldown. I like that it is a 120-second cooldown. A lot of elite skills in Guild Wars 2 have gotten the overabundance of love treatment, where many elite skills used to have like 120, 180, 200-second cooldowns. And now a lot of them are like 90-second, 80-second, 100-second. They're very much more accessible, which might not be a great thing when it comes to competitive modes. But when it comes to PvE, with things like alacrity and having like perma alacrity uptime, it's so strong. And next we have Wild Blow. Okay, Warrior, a little fun here. It really is fun. I love utility skills that act like this, where they just have a really wacky, fun interaction with how you deal with enemies and enemy players. It turns an enemy into a projectile that can knock back other enemies. And yeah, I would love more physical abilities that do like very cool, interesting, intricate situations where it's like you launch your enemy and that enemy will launch other enemies, or like you float an enemy and they slam down, they create a shockwave, like knocking everyone else back or something. It's just really cool, really flavorful, a lot of fun. All right, everyone, that was my video for some of my favorite and best utility skills. There are so many utility skills to still cover. Maybe I'll make this a series where I do like part 2s and part 3s of this, and particularly with elite specializations coming out and future balancing, I might have to revisit some of these videos. Thank you all for watching. If you would like to support the channel, I have a Patreon down below where you get early access to videos, you can recommend videos, you get exclusive content and interview bits and pieces here and there, hopefully more coming soon. And if you'd like to pre-order End of Dragons, the 3rd expansion for Guild Wars 2, I have links below. I am an ArenaNet partner. Thank you, ArenaNet, so much. And subscribe, comment, and share, and all that stuff, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye, everyone. Mwah!